So following to yesterday's discussion about project implementation and how it works for us in our famous IOI, the inputs, the outputs, the outcome, and then the impacts. We need to begin to understand a few basic things about how projects affect environments and how environmental considerations must inform our project planning. So I would want us to go through the project management process groups, the initiation process group. For those who are taking this as their very first course in project management, do not worry. We will not explain these things in detail. You will find them in your introductory course. There'll be another course you take in project management that tells you details of all these things, how to construct a work breakdown structure and all that. You have a course like that. But because I see some are taking it for the first time, I need to give some background to project management that will make this course understandable for everybody. So I'm sure some of you have seen these things before, the process management, project management process groups, the initiation process group. When we say project management process groups, we are looking at the classification, the broad classification of all the things that we need to do or all the activities that we need to undertake from beginning to an end to be able to complete the project, to start and complete the project. So from the time you are even thinking about the project of a new house or a new apartment, or I want to build a hotel, by the time you are thinking about all these things, you are already defining what you want to do in your mind. Sometimes you are not even writing anything down. Anytime you pass by that nice building and you see it, say, wow, I want to have a house like this. You have already initiated the process of getting a house. All those things are things we do before we even start planning how to do it. So initiation process group, normally in corporate organizations or in corporate environments, they are a form of kind of someone initiating the project. Maybe sometimes the board will approve a project to be initiated. They would ask for tenders from suppliers or contractors, potential contractors. They will bring their bids. They will open it. They will award contract. The moment they award contracts and give out the contract to somebody to come and implement that project, the initiation process group has ended. So the last stage of initiation process group is the award of contract, or what we call the acceptance of a project charter. When we talk of a project charter, it is the official document that authorizes the existence of a project, right? It's like an invitation card to go for a party. If you don't have the invitation card, you get to the gate, they may ask you. If you don't have, they will send you back. So in projects, we call it the charter. And that charter is a technical name, but people call it contract document. People can call it project document. They give it different names, but the significance or what makes that document important is that it helps you to have access to corporate document, corporate environment, employees, resources, because without a contract, you will not have, you'll not be able to raise invoices for work done to be paid. All right. So that is it. So when you are a project manager, you're working in complex environment like political projects, working with the government of Ghana or other complex environment, please, it is your duty to ensure that projects are properly approved. Projects that have to go through parliamentary approval, they have to go. Otherwise, if there's a change of government and the project were not approved properly, you may realize that you may not have payment for the work that you are doing. And that is why it's really key and important to ensure that projects are well approved before you start. Then, once the project is approved and a contractor or an implementer has been identified, the next phase is to plan. So the planning phase is when, for the first time, a professional project manager is given the order or the charge or the approval to get projects done or implemented. This is the stage where you are going to do what we call mobilization. It's very common in construction environment, but mobilization is not only for construction environment. For every project, you need to mobilize yourself. That is to get your team members who will do what. Then sometimes they give you mobilization fund, maybe about 10, 15% of the of the project sum or contract sum. All those things will come here, and then you now have to do proper timing. You have what we call work breakdown structure, which is you are breaking down the bigger project into smaller components so that you can assign individuals to do it. Then, once all those things are done, then you can go to execution process group. Those are all the activities you do to manage and to be able to um, execute the project, getting the resources that are required to be able to work on the projects. That will include ensuring that the right project is or the right activities are undertaken. So there's a very close link between the project execution and project planning. What is that difference? Project planning is very important because it is what you plan that you are going to execute. So see project planning as where you are going to have the inputs. Okay, that's where you're going to have the inputs. Okay, and then together you are going to plan already what will go into the project. So if you get it wrong, if you do wrong budgeting, if you don't budget for materials well, implementation stage is basically implementing what you have planned. So there is a lot of time and effort that have to be invested into project planning. Many a time you realize that we don't plan. We just start. Oh, I have this yesterday. How many of us have taken our time every morning before we go to the office to plan the route well? Or we just jump onto the car, we even exit the house before we don't even, maybe there are multiple ways out to the same destination, but we are not really thinking about where to pass. So the planning phase is very important. But those who plan the route, sometimes you even go through Google Maps to see which routes are traffic congested at the moment and which ones are free. You see that when you plan like that, you are able to do things intentionally. Execution phase will be followed or will be accompanied closely with what we call monitoring and controlling process group. This is one of the courses those who are in their second semester, they have taken already. But those who are in their first semester, you are going to take a course in project monitoring. We call it monitoring and evaluation because it goes beyond the control. So, but yeah, we design such a way that you have monitoring, control, and evaluation. Now, this process group happens at all the four other process groups. So we have the initiation, planning, execution, and soon we'll see closure. In all these process groups, there should always be monitoring and controlling. How do you monitor and control initiation process group? Making sure that whatever you are initiating or whatever you are thinking about is possible. I always use this example when I'm thinking about monitoring and controlling at the initiation phase. If I, Fanuel, want to have a three-bedroom apartment now, I shouldn't go and be looking at the architectural drawing that Ibrahim Mahama also used for his three-bedroom apartment. We are by far no co-equals. There should be what we call a guard against what is possible and what is not possible. If I want to build a three-bedroom apartment with one plot of land or sometimes even half plot, it's still enough for me at certain places. If I have more money, I can go for 2 or 3 plots so I can have a home garden, which I like to do a lot. I don't mind sharing walls with people, yeah, but certain people who have security concerns, they don't just build anywhere. They don't want anyone to build close to them. When we talk of a 3-bedroom for, let's say, Kempong, Kena, Japan, right? He may have a washroom. Okay, washroom are now normal in every room, but he may want to have swimming pool on the last floor. Okay, like when you go to Kempinski in Accra, right? But the cost of having a swimming pool at the top is very high, maintaining it and all that. I may not want to do that to myself, my scarce resources. I will want to, even if I have a swimming pool, it should be on the ground floor, or I may not even bother myself with a swimming pool because I don't swim anyway. Maybe I have to learn to swim. So you will see that monitoring and controlling at the initiation phase help you to know what is possible and what is not possible. If you exaggerate your capabilities at the initiation stage, what will happen is that your project will not see a light of day. That's why you see a lot of uncompleted structures dotted around the country everywhere you pass, because many people don't plan well. People don't guard against their initiation stage to know what is possible. People exaggerate that, oh, Nyame we are in the Nyame Republic, where people think that, well, they are the only ones who have God. So God will leave everything and come and do these things for them. No, God is for everybody. Always plan based on what is scientifically proven and guard against your thoughts when you are initiating a project. At the planning stage, you have to guard against the planning such that whatever is in the contract document given to you is what you plan to do, monitoring and controlling. Execution stage is where you probably need about 90% of your monitoring and controlling skills and expertise. This is where you have to ensure that what has been planned, we do it judicially. People would not come to work. People want to cut corners. People want to steal resources. All those things you have to monitor and control the use of resources, equipment, and technology so that things are done well. Then the last process group is the closing process group. That is the end of the project. When project is completed, we need to make sure we hand it over to the owner or the sponsor so that they can use it for the rightful purpose. Now, why do we need monitoring and controlling even at the closing process group? You have to go and monitor and check that everything that was planned or initiated in the contract document is what we have, as in what we wanted and what we have. That is why monitoring and controlling is needed at all the stages of project management. Remember, you can always ask questions, make comments, can unmute and interrupt if you have any contributions or if you don't understand something. Okay. Now, in doing all this from initiation up to closure of every project, most of the time, individuals, companies, organizations, governments, and many other actors in the project management space, they are looking at what? Getting the best for themselves. Everybody, human nature is inherently selfish. We all want the best for ourselves. We all want the best for ourselves. And that's why organizations that are driven by capitalist intentions will want to do everything possible. They want to implement projects to be able to make money. But that is what really interests me in my PhD studies some 5 years ago. I did a work on sustainability as my thesis. So my thesis was on sustainable enterprise development, sustainability. And through my reading and interaction with people, we realized that the current goal of the firm is what? Wealth maximization, coming from the profit maximization concept. So every institution that is implementing a project, they want to see whether it will result in profit maximization. But this goal of the firm is incomplete. When it happens, it means that we are neglecting the environment. We are basically looking at something that can put money in our pocket or make us prosperous without thinking about the environment. And that is where there is a problem with the goal of the firm that we currently use. Those of you who are business students, we have come across this goal of the firm from profit maximization to wealth maximization, which is not really speaking to what we need to do as individuals, because we need to protect what we have come to meet. If the environment was destroyed, you and I will not be able to have a lecture today. Maybe we will not be born at all in the first place. And that's why we need to guard against it and not have only profit motives. So there are project management goals that you'll come across as a project manager. One of them is to finish projects on time, which is very important, key to success. You don't want to finish projects after deadline. Another one is to control the budget, making sure what we budget for is what we spend. Improve team collaboration and communication, making sure everybody is working together. Improve productivity, making sure what we are working on as project managers is going to increase productivity and wealth. Manage stakeholders' expectations, our stakeholders expect something from the programs, make sure we meet their needs. We also need to optimally utilize the project resources so that resources are not stolen or wasted or destroyed. We also need to improve the effectiveness of team meetings to make sure that meetings are not wasteful. We don't go and discuss political party issues and then avoid going to talk about the reason we will go there. And then creating data-driven culture where we are talking about date projects. When we talk about updates, I remember 2 years ago now, just before the 2024 elections, the president of the republic at the time uh, uh, went to visit a project at Takrady, or went to, let's say, commission a project at Takrady, or I don't know. Yeah, I think the project was supposed to have been completed. So yeah, to inaugurate it, not to commission, to inaugurate the project. He got there, and even some of the things that were supposed to be there were artificial. Even the carpet that he was told they have grown and watered for several weeks apparently was an artificial one. So if you are a project manager, you can be misled by field people. So you need to make sure you have data on what and what. When they tell you, okay, project is 90% complete, ask for what and what in the project plan has been implemented to get to the 90 and verify it. Don't just buy into percentages without adequate data to support it. Create a data-driven culture, which we discussed, then simplify collaboration with clients. So when you are working with people, clients, your suppliers, and your customers, make sure you work with them in a simplified way. Collaborate with them so that if your supplier of cement has only 10 bags left, they will keep it for you. They will not sell it to anyone. That is collaboration. They don't see you as a customer, they see you as part of the family, right? And that is what makes you succeed. Others may think that you are using Agbala, but no, you are not using Mami Water Spirit to success, but you have created that collaboration. How many of us did not drive or walk several distances to go and buy from a shop, skipping other shops selling similar thing because of customer service or the way we were received at our previous visit? How many of us did not pass by poorly handled shops because of customer service and lack of personal touch with the people? Yeah, so that is it. Don't stop learning. Very important in project management. So whilst we do all these things, we have to make sure there's a sustainability balance. Looking at it from sustainable development goals perspective and making sure that we are not being too selfish, because it's in the process of creating what we need that we can also support the environment. There's one watchword I always say: if you cannot add anything to the environment, don't take anything from the environment. If you cannot add anything to the environment, don't take anything from the environment. All right. But in our quest to sustainability, let us think of adding to the environment. Don't let us leave the environment the way we met it. Let's always make sure we add to the environment. And then one by one, our environment will become better for our children. That is the idea. Okay. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to the next slide. So the project implementation cycle typically follows the planning, execution, and to closure. In between or along the way, you have to be doing monitoring and controlling. And we have to make sure that we consider or we integrate environmental planning into all the various stages, or environmental consideration to all the stages, because it is the environment that hosts everything we have. Look, the building where you are seated now, or wherever you are and reading or listening to this lecture, the thing is hosted by the environment. Assuming the environment is no more, it's been destroyed, you cannot do anything. And that should be our main idea or our watchword whenever we are working on these particular projects or whichever project we are working on. Sustainability ideas should come to our mind. Okay. So basically, planning, execution, closure will need a proper monitoring and control. So you see, it's a circular flow. And in between those circular flows, our monitoring and controlling measures to make sure that they are sustainable. Even our M&E monitoring evaluation activities should be sustainability driven. So when we are implementing the project or we are at the implementation phase of every project, we have to make sure everything that we do, we we minimize the use of resources. One of the ways we can implement projects in a sustainable way is to make sure we use fewer resources to achieve the same thing, right? Fewer resources. That's what we call efficiency. Then pollution reduction. We have to think about pollution. Whatever we are going to do must not result in pollution. So if you work for a company and then your fleet, your truck fleets are very old and they smoke a lot on the highway, as a project manager, you have to encourage the management reduce the uh, uh, to reduce the fleet pollution by maybe letting go some of the old ones and using other ones. Then another thing is waste management. That is leading us to what we call more environmental friendly material so that we don't generate too much plastic or harmful waste into the environment. So as a project manager, this should be at the back of our mind. Then in the end, all that we are trying to say is that we should have an ecosystem preservation, preserving the ecosystem, making sure that we don't cause harm to biodiversity, because in the long run, it comes to affect all of us. And at the implementation stage, one other thing, or probably let's call them two important things we need to do to ensure environmental performance is to minimize our negative impacts and rather focus on maximizing positive contributions to the environment. It leads to the same thing I mentioned earlier. If you can't take from the environment, if you cannot add to the environment, don't take from the environment. Add something. So minimize your impacts, your what we call our footprint or carbon footprints, and then try to rather add to it. Can we grow trees on uh, when you are even constructing roads? Can you add tree planting along the way as an or and not just any tree, not trees that can easily fall and break vehicles, but trees that are maybe ceremonial trees or whatever it is that is naturally ideal or allowed by the road or something. Whatever you are doing, if it's a house, yeah, windbreaks, whatever it is, instead of tiling every part of your house, can you have some garden? Can you have biodiversity? Okay, yeah. Then we have to make sure we work in line with the SDGs. SDGs, I think we have 5 years to go. 10 years is already gone. So we really need to go back to the SDGs when we are working on a project. Now, AI can help you. If you put your project plan into a very good AI, it can tell you which SDGs will be affected by your project. Sorry. Which um, aspect of SDGs will have concern with your project, and then it can help you to think about how you can minimize it. So it's not too difficult at all. Yeah. So here are some SDGs you can, yeah, all the SDGs are here, from poverty, uh, eradication, talking about no poverty, right down to partnerships for the goals, right? So we've seen it. And for every project, there could be some effect, there could be something that you have to look out for, like gender equality. Are you employing both from all sides? Yeah, Elinam. Yeah, Elinam. Let's have your contribution before we continue.
Okay, so please, when you were talking about the project management goals, I didn't hear you talk about social responsibilities, or they are not included.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yeah, I've not really delved into all aspects. Yeah, this one, for example. Yeah, I'm sure you're talking about this particular one. Yeah. So I've not delved into every aspect of this, but you can infer that from stakeholder. You look at number 5, manage stakeholder expectations, right? So um, corporate social responsibility is this responsibility to your stakeholders, basically, the community, even sometimes the environment, uh, and even responsible pricing. They are all corporate social responsibility. All these things are important. So yeah, you can think about even much more, but it is important. I didn't explicitly mention it, but thanks for drawing our attention. It's important to think about the community, and that will be under stakeholder management. So we will actually be having a whole lecture on corporate social responsibility as part of our as part of this course. So you will definitely come across that. Yeah. Okay. If there are no more questions, then um, I will encourage you, everything you do, get back to this picture and ask yourself, am I going to create decent work and economic growth? Hmm? Am I going to ensure that I'm reducing hunger or there's no hunger through my projects? If you are a road contractor and you just went constructing road, destroying people's home link roads without creating access road to it for them, they can't go to work. How are they going to feed their family? So there are some responsibility for everything that we do. Uh, if you in the oil and gas industry, you got a project to drill to get to drill a well, and then you contaminate the water and the sea, and then quietly you didn't tell anybody. Fishes may consume it, and then people will consume the fish in return, and then people can die out of that. That's why we need clean water and life under underwater. Very, very important. So there are so many things that are here. This is not an SDG class, but make sure everything you do, you think about the SDGs and beyond. So, as part of my uh, studies in sustainability, I've come across the fact that we normally talk about what we call the triple bottom line of sustainability: the economic, the social, and the ecological, what we call the environmental sustainability. What normally, what people normally talk about is the economic sustainability. So that is a capitalist ideology. We are all thinking about um, economic issues. We want to make money. People are into project because they are thinking of how much I'll be paid. I don't think an employee normally will ask about environmental sustainability before accepting job placement, but they will definitely ask about how much will I be paid, you know. So economic issues dominate our discussions every now and then. But we also need to think more about the social. The social and sustainability talks more about the people, human beings and the communities, like social responsibility and all that under the social. And then the ecological talks about the vegetation, the natural habitat and the ecosystem that hosts living things. So you see that they kind of connect to one another in a way that there cannot be any economic progress without the people, and no business activity is hanging in the air apart from the International Space Station, which was even control or is even control from the ground. So we need the ecology, we need the natural vegetation to be able to do things right, or to sustain ourselves. So we have come across socioeconomic consideration. The new things I have added from my research and finding is what we call, or what I term, the socio-ecological. What is socio-ecological? So socio-economic means something that has social dimension and economic dimension. That's socio-economic, right? So socio-ecological, which we should be thinking about, is anytime we are implementing projects, we should think about it from a more social and ecological perspective. Let us do some social and ecological analysis. And then another one is econological. That is combining economic and then ecological sustainability. So whatever project we do must benefit both the economic goals and then also the ecological goals. And then if you put all these things together, I I coined a term called socio-ecological, which means social, economic, and ecological sustainability. That is where the three will intersect. Yeah, if you want to read more about this, you can type my name and then type my thesis, 2021 thesis from the University of Cape Coast Library, and then you come across the explanation to these things in detail. You can learn from it. But the idea is that for us to approve, when we sit on boards and committees or managing projects and we are approving projects, let us make sure it has a socio-ecological approval. What it means is that it passes both the social, economic, and ecological acceptance stage, that nobody in the ecosystem will be worse off. The society will not be worse off. Yeah, it is difficult for most of us who work with organizations that we have very little control over some of these things. But gradually, let us begin to orient ourselves. And whenever we have the opportunity to make decisions, let us focus on making sure everybody is better off in the ecosystem, or at least not worse off in the ecosystem. So another concept that I'm currently developing with some partners, also for my thesis, you'll find this also in that, is what we call the utopian model of sustainability practice, where now we want to ensure that everything we do is socio-ecological. It means that it is both social, ecological, and economic sustainable. And then you see the blue portion, that is very important for this class, what we call the trade-off analysis. What is a trade-off analysis? Before you can satisfy A, you may have to trade off B a little. Maybe I should look for, okay, yes, let me use this example. You have 3 children and you have only 1 car, and they are in different schools. You definitely have to take one to school first before the other. So in the process, somebody will have to go to school first before the other. But what if all of them want to be taken to school first? There must be a trade-off. Somebody will have to definitely go last because they are all not in the same school, right? Okay, so what do? You need to do a trade-off. You need to do analysis that, okay, if we take Mami Esi to school first, that will be helpful because her place, the traffic piles up maybe much quickly than Kojovi. Kojovi school is facing the opposite direction of the traffic, so we can always go there. So maybe we'll go to that one last, and then maybe Aisha will be second. These 3 children need to understand that by taking maybe Mami Poma to school first is the right decision, and it benefits all of us in the end. So there will always be some kind of what people may call robbing Peter to pay Paul. But here it is not to rob, but to make a decision that even though there may be some impact on one aspect of the sustainability, it is not too deep, such that it eats into that one you are sacrificing. So there can be minimal distraction to the environment when we are constructing roads, but let us not destroy the whole place and leave it. When you finish the constructing the road, you probably need to do what? Make sure you grow grass by the roadside or cover the side so it does not result in gutters, erosion by the roadside. That is basically the idea, making sure that we satisfy all these three without making anyone too worse off. So, yeah, that leads us to the concept of the circular economy. I'm sure some of you might have come across the concept of circular economy. The concept of circular economy means that our society is in a circle. You know, when I draw a circle now, and I ask you to tell me where did the circle start and where does it end, you will never know. Look at the first one on the left. You see the planet resources. You see it's in a circle, the globe. If I tell you where did that circle start, you don't know. That is how we want things to be. What it means basically is that we want to have a situation where there is no end to resource use. And when we say there's no end to resource use, it means that there shouldn't be any point when we say this one, we have finished using it, so we throw it away. Everything that you finish using, the output should be useful for something else again. So it goes round and round. It's like marriage. Till death do you part. There's nothing like yambobium at any point in time. No. So that is how the circular economic concept is. So I'm going to start a farming project maybe later this year or maybe early next year, or what I call the circular agric project. The circular agric project is a concept that is developing in many countries. I learned from a friend, also in Germany. They keep both animal and crops so that when animal waste come out, like the animal droppings, it will use to fertilize the grains or the crops, and the waste from crop harvest and all that will be used to feed the animals. You see, so in the end, nothing is going waste. Basically, that is what we call circular economy. So in the process, when we take things from the planet, we have to make use of them. We used to make so many things. We build. We need to recycle some of them, and we need to reuse them. The difference between recycling and reusing is that recycling is maybe plastic bottle can be sent back to the factory and melted and used for something else, maybe plastic bowl. But for the reuse, I can use, instead of going to buy a bottle to come and bottle my homemade juice or a smoothie, I can use my bottled water because bottled water container or the water bottle, plastic water bottle that I was going to throw away for this to store the smoothie, so that I will have reduced the use of plastic by 50%. So that is a way we can reuse something that has already been used. But in that case, you have to be careful that you are not using something that is really not wholesome. Yeah. So recycling, reusing, and giving back to society or the system is very important. And anytime we want to throw away something from our projects, activity, or even in the house, let's ask ourselves, can't we have another use for this? Or is it the best way to dispose of it? So these days, for the past 3 years, I don't throw away my bottle, my bottle after drinking the water or sachet. I keep them, and then there's someone that counts for them. Now, I don't get anyone to count for the sachet, but only the bottles. So if we can have an idea that can, or a situation where we can have water, or someone taking the sachet water in the environment, see that it will be helpful. What it means then is that let us be consciously not making waste that cannot be recycled or reused. Basically, that is the idea. So we can move to what we call more biodegradable packages and packaging and all that. So it's really good. Moving away from plastics is a key element of our project impact assessment and sustainability course. Okay, so there are key environmental performance indicators in projects. Some of the environmental performance indicators, what we call the EPIs, will include energy consumption. Do you turn on your air conditioning system and go out for long hours, whether home or wherever? So, are we using inefficient machines that consume a lot of fuel? All those things are going to cause pollution to the environment. Our waste generation, are we generating too much waste, or we are reusing or recycling them? Water usage, are we wasting water, or we are using it wisely? Carbon emissions, yes, also from our vehicles and equipment, and biodiversity impacts. Biodiversity is about the ecological sustainability issue. So all these things impact or speak about our sustainability efforts. So there are some key takeaways for environmental uh, um, performance indicators. Yeah, environmental performance indicators. Let us contemplate on environmental issues during the project initiation stage. Already, let's begin to ask ourselves, how are we going to make use of the project sustainably? How are we going to make use of sustainable packaging? For those of you who work with multinationals, you begin to see a trend that even for them to give contract to suppliers, there are sustainability requirements. In fact, I was in a workshop 2 years ago. Was it last year rather? Maybe last year, yeah, or 2 years ago. I have to check again. Now, the European Union is starting what we call the Due Diligence Act. And the Due Diligence Act is basically saying that all those who supply you must necessarily be practicing sustainability, must be sustainable, or they must practice sustainable business. Let me put it that way. So you need to think about these things, because very soon, if your project is not sustainable, you may not have contracts from certain groups of clients, and then gradually your fortunes will dwindle. How do we integrate EPI into project plans? And how do we have clear and measurable indicators to track the project's environmental impact? So we'll be looking at environmental impact assessment, and we need to have regular review and evaluate our performance year on year. Now there's ESG reporting standards that are required by some organizations. We'll be looking at all those things. So what are the challenges in balancing project goals and environmental performance? There's always pressure on us to meet deadlines. So we are not thinking about other things, Charlie. We're thinking about money and deadlines, basically. So those are challenges we face. There are also uh, perceived obstacles uh, in environmental performance. People think, talking about the environment, we are not parks and gardens company, so why are you worrying us with environmental issues? But I think it's a good point to always ensure that we have a good environmental issues integrated. Short-term economic goals can conflict with long-term environmental sustainability. By the time the boardroom says their closing prayer, they have already calculated how much profit they are going to earn from the next project. Then you will come and tell them that the project is not sustainable. Then you are going to face challenges. You may lose your job. So it is a way to ensure that we balance all these things, but try to explain things gradually. But I know most of you, or probably all of you, will be in decision-making positions. Some of you are already in decision-making positions. It is important that you integrate some of these thoughts into your project. You are not doing the environment a favor when you keep it. You are actually prolonging your life. You're actually trying to live a healthy life so you can enjoy your wealth. Uh, and then also we need to look at how to get expertise. We don't have a lot of environmental expertise, and we see those few who are able doing that as sometimes we declare them persona non grata. We don't want to talk to them because they're like, those of you who were born at least before the 1990s, you have come across tankers, or maybe the tankers were still working in the 1990s, maybe. Yeah. You see, tankers, what does the tankers do? the tankers only comes to make sure that you are you are keeping yourself neat. But they will we see them as enemies, right? But the tankers are not the enemy. The environmental people or those who are assessing the environment are not enemies. They are trying to just keep you strong. Now, I'm sure most of us must have come across the saying that when the last tree dies, the last human being also dies. It's true because if you look at science in itself, where do we get our oxygen from? From the environment. If it is polluted, you breathe in waste and then you are going to die. So it is very important for us to make sure some of us should endeavor to study more about the environment, become environmental expertise, and then we can even supporting other organizations in their environmental impact assessment. Good. So overcoming all these challenges will require that we have strong leadership, commitment, and integration. What is strong leadership? Leaders who are insistent on sustainable practices. Otherwise, we aren't going to get the project done in a way that help both ourselves and the environment. And the integration aspect is this. Let us not now say that, okay, forget about economic sustainability. Let us leave money aside. No, if you do that, you don't have anyone sitting in the boardroom to listen to you. So making profit is not an enemy to sustainability, but all that we are saying is that it should not only be about profits. So you have to find a way of integrating these things into socio-ecological sustainability where everybody is satisfied to some extent. There will always be a need for a trade-off, remember. So while we do that, we need to make sure we have all these things done or integrated into our project KPIs, what we call the key performance indicators. All right. So what are the strategies for enhancing environmental performance during implementation? We need to make sure we conduct environmental audits throughout the project lifecycle. What is an environmental audit? We are checking to see how our project will impact the environment and see whether we are taking steps to avoid dangerous or negative impact on the environment. We also can implement what we call green procurement practices, where we buy only sustainable items that are sustainably packaged, green packaging, things that pollute the environment, will reduce their use, provide environmental training and awareness programs, or even before this, the part of the green procurement practices, as I mentioned earlier, will mean that some organizations will not buy from you if you're a supplier and your systems are not sustainability friendly, right? And then next is to provide environmental training awareness program to all project team members. Don't assume that everybody knows what you know. So you need to bring the team together, explain to them why. The why is very important. The why, very, very important. Why do they need to have this sustainable or sustainability orientation? And then use technology and innovation to reduce environmental impact, like energy efficient equipment, waste reduction technologies. And like I said, I use AI a lot to tell me more about whatever I want to do. AI is almost free. I have a premium version. I pay $20 every month, and I have very elaborate discussion or interaction with AI. It tells me a lot. Let us use technology to help us to manage the environment well. And finally, to engage with local communities and stakeholders to address environmental concerns and gather valuable insights. Yeah. So we don't have to do all these things alone. Sometimes you need to talk to the people. Some social responsibilities are imposed on the community. That is not socially sustainable. So you see that it happens sometimes when projects are implemented a social responsibility project by the community, they don't use the facility. That can also create problems. So you need to co-create and do these things together with the community. Yes, Francisca.
Thank you, Doc. So please, my question is, with the lack of environmental expertise, as a project manager, how do you go about it? Because we know them, they are not many in the system,
Yeah.
and getting them sometimes becomes difficult. So as a project manager, how do you get them on your team? And again, too, when they are part of the team, how they going to be on the team from the initiation stage to the last, or they're only there during the initiation stage?
Sorry, the second part of your question, can you explain it a bit to me?
Yes, sir. So I'm asking if they come on board, are they going to be on the team from beginning to the end,
Oh,
or
okay.
only during the initiation?
Okay. I get it. Thank you very much. Yes, so the first part, shortage of environmental experts in project management, how do we address it? Yes, please let us have two comments from colleagues. What do we think? Do we have environmental experts here or policy analysts? How can we address this issue? Let's bring our ideas. Since no one will talk, I'll call names. And if I call your name, you have to answer. Oh. If you don't answer, it means that you are not in class. Oh. Let me see. Why am I not saying the names? Okay. Madam Belinda Sam. How can we approach or come around this this situation of lack of environmental experts? Jude, you want to give us some ideas?
I'm not hearing you well.
Okay, Belinda, yes, you are here. I was talking about whether you have an idea, or you say you don't have any idea. Hello? Okay. Is there someone else? Gifty Adepena Kukua. What do you think?
Doc, please, the question again, please.
Yes,
I would
so
like to understand it. Yeah.
so the question is now we are talking about environmental sustainability, integrating environmental goals into our project plan and implementation, but we don't have the environmental, let's say, ecological experts, people who are environmental analysts and all that. We don't have a lot of them. So how do we go about it? How are we going to still achieve these things we are talking about in the midst of the crisis that we don't have the environmental experts around? Yeah, that's the idea. That's the question, if I understand it well. Yeah.
Okay, Doc. So I think most of the things that are related to sustainability, they are somehow counterintuitive, because you definitely know that when you litter around, the waste is going to get choked somewhere. That's going to cause drainage problems and then flood. You know that when you litter human fecal matters around, it's going to create pollution that will lead to diseases and all those. And so I think there should be a committee raised during the implementation parts or the input stages. There needs to be a committee that's raised where the committee's members are more environmentally conscious, the people who are down to earth, understanding how certain activities or certain decisions will affect the environment. And then at least they will come up with a good ESG plan that can be reviewed by somehow an expert, or like you said, using an AI that will facilitate them to be able to know the things that they couldn't understand. Yeah, I think that's my take on that.
Okay. So, yeah, that is one strategy, very, very important, because if you are in a community where you don't have excellent, good may be fine. So sometimes, in fact, we have some consultants who work on some of these. You can also talk to the Environmental Protection Agency. Sometimes they have some expertise. We don't make use of them. Sometimes we see them, you see, they also portray themselves as police kind of thing, regulators, and I know the regulators need to provide. Okay, I think my internet's running into trouble again. Sorry about that. So, yeah, let me continue the okay, the recording is still on. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so like I was saying, we need to think more about how we can engage the Environmental Protection Agency. They are one of the key institutions in Ghana that can give us the best ideas about environmental protection. So let us see them as friends. What we don't really have a lot is like the private sector actors who will serve as consultants to guide you through. But maybe if you really need someone to do that and you're not sure, you can talk to the EPA regional offices. They may have some ideas about some of the few people who are there. But of course, Jude's point, to empower your team, sometimes if you're a decision-making organization, try to train or send some of the people out there to be training in those things. I remember when I was going to have this training in environmental impact assessment and the EU's new strategy for sustainability. My university did not sponsor me. They didn't see it as important, right? Yeah. If it's about publishing articles or teaching, that one, it's important to them. But you see, it's difficult for people to understand that these things affect us. So I had to sponsor myself. I did. And I did for myself. I got the knowledge, but of course, it will inform the way I do things, or it's informing the way I'm doing things and inform the way I'm teaching because I get to understand these things more. So one way also is to get somebody to come and train your team for you. So that leads to the second part of the question, that do we need to have the person with us throughout? That would be too expensive, I must say. Unless it is an environmental project that you need the expert to guide you along the way every step. But if it is a general day-to-day project, you may have the person as a consultant who will come once in a while, help you at the beginning stage, come around to do the auditing at the points and monitor and control the process, and then come at the end to see that everything is fine. And in the process, let such people train your team for you. 2 people should be trained in the area so that they can be able to learn how to follow up so that you don't have to be paying for expensive consultancy every now and then. That approach I will recommend. Please, is that okay? Do you agree, or do you have some other ideas?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, Doc.
All right, pleasure. So, please, can you still see my screen?
Yes, Doc.
Okay, good. So now we are looking at how we measure and report environmental performance. There are many ways of doing these things. If you are going to buy Gary in the market, you know that in measuring Gary, we have one cup or one Olonka, these things. Yeah, but environmental issues can be really, really difficult to measure. Yeah, there are several tools and institutions that are in charge. We have tools like the life cycle assessment, which can provide you with some comprehensive insight into the project's environmental impact. Life cycle assessment basically looks at whatever you are going to do, whether it's a project, asset you are acquiring, whatever, it has a life cycle. So we want to know stage 1, after 1 year, what will be the impact It's like having a car. You can do a life cycle assessment of your car. That is why in in very developed countries where they have emissions standards, when a car is about 5, 10 years, and you are going to pay more for licensing it, or you will not pass the emissions test, we buy it and bring it to Africa. We call it home use. It is now brand new here. But it's because we don't conduct life cycle assessment. Okay. It's very important to ensure that we conduct life cycle assessment for everything that we do. If it's a house, sometimes it will to even inform you not to use disposable things. This cup I'm buying, how long will I use it before I dispose it off? You see, you have done a life cycle assessment. You say, only once, then that's so these days I actually wash my disposable cup. I buy normally the paper type. And yeah, unless it becomes very stained and contaminated, then I throw it away. Otherwise, I use it if I drink wine, I can use it and I can wash it and keep it. I used to drink beer and then maybe later to drink my smoothie and later wine. Yeah, I'm the only person using it in my room, so I think it's still fine. That's if I want to use disposable. Otherwise, the glass cap is also there. So, but if you go for events that you cannot use and use, that one, you have to use the disposable one. But if you can afford, buy the paper base. It's a little more expensive, but then you are intentionally trying to protect the environment. Then we have environmental reporting systems from the Global Reporting Initiative. So it's also a kind of a non-governmental organization, international system where you can report your sustainability initiatives for you to become very well compliant. The GRI system really works for some people. It's just like the way we have the ESG reporting, just like the way we have the accounting standards, where you also report about financial performance and all that. Yeah. But yeah, this one basically focuses on sustainability reporting on project and business initiatives. So this is the simplified tool for the LCA life cycle assessment tool. So from the resource acquisition stage, to manufacturing or production, through packaging and transportation, to the use and end of life, we have to make sure we understand what goes on at every stage of everything we are working on. Okay, are we extracting the resources sustainably? Like the way we have currently our galamsey in Ghana. Galamsey, the acquisition stage. Galamsey, galam stop, galam start. Nothing is happening. It's very important the way we extract it. That's why some countries will say, if we can't extract it sustainably, let's leave it there. So it's very important that we work on these things and work on them very well. Then manufacturing. When you extract the thing in your manufacturing, the processes that go through using even the extraction here, some of these miners use cyanides on all that, and the process, they wash them in the water bodies. These are all bad. And then when you are processing them, the item, whatever it you are processing, manufacturing can basically also be when you are constructing a house, putting together fabrication and all that. That doesn't necessarily have to be doing something in a lab or in a plant where you manufacture the things per se, but any process, something that is changing the process. And then packaging, very important. The use, right? Overuse of something is also not a sustainable way of doing it, right? Have you ever had a big problem with breathing and maybe movement after eating too much? Okay, that is it. That's overuse of anything. Maybe when we meet next week, I will ask Engineer Ben Owuzu. There's a phenomenon I observe, especially trotro drivers, the commercial drivers. What they do is that when they are going to fuel their car, uh, uh, and you know, Bruni made the thing such that when it gets to full tank, it will cut. Pa. All right. we try to add top up, fine. Then you get to a point that what really amazes me is that they now begin to shake the car. Ah, what is it? He said he wants more fuel. More fuel how? The owner or the manufacturer of the car know that this is the quantity you should take. But he said no. I don't know. Those an engineer told me one that he affect the system, the car system, even the gauge system and all that. Maybe we need to understand how these things work. And then when we are done, how to dispose of the everything. Remember, we talk about recycling, reuse, repackaging, even how we call upcycling, where now lorry tires can be used as seats in a restaurant or something, they can just add some things in it. So it's really important to do some life cycle assessment of things so that we don't destroy them along the way. Because if you destroy that car or engine because of the group, it means that you have disposed of metal into the environment. That car could have spent 2 or 5 more years before the engine goes bad. So it's very important to work on that. Yes, Brother Jude, go ahead.
Yeah, Doc. So on the matter of the car shaking, the throttle shaking the car.
Yeah.
Actually, so what I know is that they have tanks that we call fast tanks and the slow tanks. So some of the tanks are designed in such a way that the tunnel or the channels to the main reservoir is somehow a little bit restricted, and then they have ports in it. So in them shaking it is to allowing the flow, allowing the liquid to flow in a turbulent flow fast into the main reservoir. So sometimes that's the idea, but I don't know that when you keep pumping and leave it, it will definitely slide down in a laminar flow and get into the tank. I think that's the reason why they do that. Also, I want to find out sustainability is a lifetime thing. Sustainability is a lifetime. It's not a short-time thing.
Yeah.
So, and me looking at project management being in the initial stages being a temporary thing, like you need to finish the project and then hand over to the users, and then you move on to a different project. I'm thinking, how will the project manager be able to help build a sustainability plan for a project that has been made, and he not being around to ensure that that plan of a lifelong thing is going to sustain is going to be implemented, and that because sustainability comes along with a lot of high budget. You need to put things in place and then other things. So I want to know how a project manager will play a major role in ensuring that when he's in his absence, things are being done the right way.
Okay, so project managers may have okay, thank you first for that's your explanation. Again, if you compare with the natural state of things, it's likely to create problems. So that is how you concluded on that it may affect them, because it's just if you really wanted the thing to settle down, then you need to also wait for it to settle down. There's a reason why the manufacturer didn't want the thing to run into it very fast, because it can create problem when it is running too fast. That's why it is the way it is. Yeah, so let us try to educate these guys. Let us do the right thing. Yeah. Anyway, on the question of how we can get this thing done, the project manager is constrained. After you hand over the projects, you will not have access to the project again by the users. And that's why sustainability discussion goes beyond projects. And normally, you realize that the project manager is coming up with outcome that they are not using themselves. Occasionally or hardly would they use the project's outcome themselves. So most of the time, someone else is using it. And that's why the decision-making at the boardroom is important. What the project manager can do is that at the handing over, you try to kind of call it educate the users. Most of the time, projects are commissioned and it is left to communities, especially the social responsibility projects, or even organizations who have projects. They get new incinerator centers working. They have something else working. They've got to commission a new operating system, and then there's no proper transition and technical understanding of how the thing works. It breaks down quickly. They're going to spend more. That is not sustainable. So it's important that project managers take further steps by the through the handing over of everything, you have to write a handing over a note or project report. That's or even what we call manual, operation manual, in a way that people can read it and understand why they should do things in a particular way. Most of these commercial drivers, they don't have the manual to those vehicles. If they have the manual and they're ready, they will never do the way they're doing it. Hello, Kofi, how are you? Just a moment, please.
Daddy,
Kofi?
Daddy.
Okay, it's noisy. So, yeah, so the idea basically is to okay, so it is important to provide what we call Okay, so sorry about that. My internet also gave up on me, so let me share my screen again. We'll be finishing soon. The next 10, 15 minutes, almost done for today. So the idea is that we have to support those who are going to make use of our projects so that they are able to also think sustainably. Of course, you'll not be there. You have little control, but the extent to which you can go is to have a transition support for them, and then you only hope that they'll do it. Yeah, that's one way I think we can go about it. Maybe there could be other suggestions. Yeah, Franca?
Yes, doctor.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, please, why is life cycle assessment important for environmental sustainability?
Okay, so it is because before we go in for anything or to start something, we should know the impacts of that thing throughout its life cycle. Because remember that the project would be a temporary endeavor, but the outcome will live with us forever or for a long time. So whatever will be the outcome of that project, we need to make sure its life cycle does not pose environmental challenges to people. And that's why if you decide to start a project that in the end will result in environmental problems or sustainability problems along the way, environment or social problems along the way, or economic problems along the way, then it's not ideal. It can be from the perspective of the project management process or the outcome itself, or from both. So we need to make sure both of them are sustainable and they're able to work the way we want them to work. Someone will say a life that is not examined or so is not worth living, something like that. We need to make sure that our activities do not pose problems in the future. And that's why we need to examine it from the word go. Please, is that okay? Hello,
Yes,
Franca.
but I have another question on the profit maximization.
Yes,
Hello,
please.
sir.
Yes, please, go ahead. I'm here.
Yeah, I wrote it down, but then I wanted you to finish. So I want to ask this before.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, the question is, why is profit maximization considered incomplete as a firm's goal?
Okay. It is incomplete because the firm should not only be thinking about profit. That's why it's incomplete. There are other things that we should be considering as a business, as a project, as a community, as society, and as individuals. If everybody is only thinking about profit, remember that then we can justify the armed robbers activity. Because that's also a business for them. It has to make profit. They are also good. They are not thinking about the social issues when they shoot people, when they harm people. They're not thinking about that. They're not thinking about breaking glasses, doors, and all that. So if everybody is only thinking about profit like businesses will do, then we can't live in this world. I mean, we'll definitely kill each other because the end justify the means, as they will call it. The means, the end, people are not thinking about it. So it is not a bad idea to have profit as a goal, but it is not complete. We need to think beyond the profitability and sustain the society and then the ecology. Is that okay? What do you think? Maybe also some ideas.
Is your network?
Sorry? My network is not stable, eh?
Yes.
No,
The
sorry
second
about
one
that.
was not that clear.
Okay, so I was saying that, is it clear now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was saying that the reason why profit maximization is not a complete or it's an incomplete goal of the business is that we cannot only focus on profitability, because if we focus only on profitability, then we are likely to be justifying the armed robbers activity because they are also in the business just to make money or to make profit. However, we need to think about society. Think about the people who are generating the profit. You go to companies and they are making or they are generating big sums of money, but some of the employees are poor. That is not a sustainable enterprise. The people who help in generating the revenue must also be sorted out well. That is the only way societies will be happy, people will be happy to generate it more, to generate more revenue. And then you cannot also be doing business, neglecting the land on which the business thrives. So it is not a bad idea to think about economic sustainability or profitability, but it is not all that we have to think about. We need to think about other actors in the ecosystem also. Is that okay? Or am I still not audible?
Yes. Oh, it's okay.
Okay. What do you think? You have some ideas to share with us your perspective so we can also learn from it. Franca,
Yes, sir.
do you have some ideas, perspective that you want to share with us?
Oh, I was asking that because at first my auntie's husband was working at a Ghana Railway before.
Okay.
And yes, and their salary was very small.
Mm.
And that time, so you see the kind of work they were doing, and then
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they would just give them something small. So looking at that,
yeah,
was it
a sustainable business
worth working at that place?
Yeah.
Yes, was it a sustainable business in Ghana? Because they employed a lot of people, but at the end of the day, they don't pay them well.
Yeah. So issues about the public sector.
But the company also belongs to Ghana government.
Yeah, right. So even our minimum wage is not a sustainable wage. Minimum wage, right? In fact, if we are paid sustainable wage, we cannot survive in this country. If you are paid the minimum wage, sorry. If you are paid the minimum wage, we will not be able to survive in this country. So that's what I was saying earlier. There are some companies that earn a lot. And sometimes you go to some of those companies, and if you see the CEO's pay slip, you will fall down and die. If you climb his money, yes. But the way the system is structured, they go to the boardroom, the board members, maybe they meet every quarter, and some are paid 20,000 a day assisting allowance. Meanwhile, the security man is paid 500 cedis. I mean, it is completely incomprehensible. But this is what we do to ourselves. And that is why I'm happy such a thing is coming up for discussion, because when we become decision makers, I want to see a change in the way we approach things, because the way we are doing it is not sustainable. And in the end, you know what will happen. And that is what really happens. So to also begin to collect monies without receipt or tickets. And then it becomes a poverty cycle. So monies will no longer go to government, and the government will say they are not making money from it. So it is kind of a system that is certain. As you ask a typical Ghanaian, how are you making a living? Say they are managing what? That one we don't know. So
Surviving.
yes. But I think this calls for a change in our attitude and the way we see things. I have resigned from my church council because I have told my church council severally that my pastor currently, who is at the time my pastor was earning about 10,000 a month, and the security man who stays in the darkness and in the mosquitoes was paid 600 cedis. I told them no. If we even leave sustainability aside and we come to Christian principle as a church, Jesus pays 10,000, also needs to pay utility bills, need to pay children's school fees, need to take transportation in and out every day, be paid 600 cedis. At least they should balance other people or other security men in the neighborhood, they also pay that much. So that's what they are looking at. And I also told them that there are some churches that the pastor also is paid 1,000 cedis. Why are we paying 10,000? Why are we also paying 1,000? So we have money, we have the resources. So why are we being so neglecting of the underprivileged? If a church could do this, you can imagine what is happening in a secular world. And in fact, this has been our problem as a nation, that salary ranges are too wide. So those at the ground, at the lower level, they're also trying to cut corners. And in the process, it's not a sustainable way of doing business. So we have to begin to sort out those people at the ground, at the lower level, and consciously with their minds. So our minds are completely corrupt because we grew up in a corrupt system where what is due us, we don't get it. So we have to find a way of getting what we deserve, and this way is not a sustainable way of living. So yeah, I think we should find a way of going around it. But yeah, I believe that. So when I talk about this severally, and they will not, I became the chairman of the finance committee of the church, and I was seeing what is in the coffers. The church was investing in treasury bills, were having all those monies, and you cannot pay the security man even 1,000 cedis. I don't believe that was an environment for me. I'll and you didn't do anything about this, so I resign. So someone can do that. But in this part of the world, resignation, people don't like resigning. But me, I resign easily when I don't believe in something. So the workers actually came to me begging me that I shouldn't resign, because when I'm around, at least I'll be able to do some changes for them. So if I go there, but seriously, my mind was not settled that I should continue in that environment when I know we are doing the wrong thing. We have a school that is generating resources, and we are not willing to pay the teachers well. So all these things are society's way of making the poor so poor. And there's a book I read. The book is entitled "We Are Poor Because We Are Poor." We are poor because we are poor. Why are we poor? We are poor physically because our mindset is also poor mindset. And that is why it is very important to ensure the mindset is the first thing to work on. When we believe that a security man can also earn 2,000, 5,000 cedis when the resources are there, then we are talking about a society that is socially responsible. Okay, and that is how we build the nation together and build the environment together. Yeah. Okay, I've seen Salom. Yes. Then after that, we'll go to Patrick.
Okay, Doc, thank you so much.
Yeah.
What was I was pondering on is the measurement of the environmental performance. For the economic aspect, it is easy to quantify and measure.
Yeah.
But for the social, the ecology, how do we? Is there other metrics which can be used to quantify their performance? Because quantifying them will be necessary when it comes to making informed decisions and taking certain actions, or even tracking how well it is doing.
Yeah.
So can you assist me? How well can we quantify the performance to be able to measure it?
All right. So there are a couple of measurement indicators. We have the this LCA can be converted into indicators, but we have what we call environmental indicators, right? We have environmental indicators. Even very soon, the next few minutes, you come across the how do you call it? The GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative. When you type all these things, they have indicators that you can use. But it also depends on the type of business you are working on. So we have simple terms, just looking at what will be the impact. Like we know we even have, when we're working on a project, we have this electronic waste management project with the EU and the government of Ghana. What happened was that we were looking at air quality. You know, we can even measure air quality. So even in your environment, there are some just a moment, please. Yeah, so we measure the air quality. There are tools that are used. For example, you go to some country there before you renew your driving license, your wedding certificate. You start your engine. There's a machine they can use to measure. So there are a lot of things. If you are, let's say, in the construction industry, you may not necessarily have a lot of tools on the field, but you can just look at if you are, for example, emptying a cement bag. Is it polluting the environment? There are simple ways of looking at it. But if you really want to do scientific analysis of your footprint and environmental impact, then you definitely have to work with experts. You go to EPA, they have ways that they use to measure some of those things. I mean, EPA, we need to interact with EPA. Maybe this year we can probably visit. I'll see whether we can visit EPA. And then we can ask some questions, discussions, see whether they have ideas about it. Yeah. Does anyone here work with EPA? The Environmental Protection Agency. Okay, if we don't have anyone, but let us begin to find Stephanie, do you work with EPA?
No, please.
Okay,
No,
but
please.
let's see. Maybe we'll try and get that. It's not every question I can answer here because I don't have all the facts, but I know that we are able to do that from time to time. Let's go to EPA and then some of these questions we'll ask, but we'll look at the final thing we'll discuss today, we'll talk about some of the reporting frameworks that we can use their tools. Their tools are available online. Some of them you need to subscribe to it and pay for it. Others are free. You can look at all it's just like the SDGs. The indicators are there, what and what you should look out for. Yeah. So then Patrick.
Yes, thank you, Doc. Doc, please. Profit to maximize profits, right? But if a project manager wants to maximize profit, then I think he will do a schedule work. This is what is bothering my mind, because if a project manager wants to maximize profit, then he has to do a schedule work so that he can get something at the end of the project. Is that the case?
Exactly. That's why we don't want to have that goal at the back of our mind. The goal of the firm, in fact, as I'm proposing in my publication, is supposed to be sustainable business, enterprise development. The moment you mention the goal of the firm to be sustainable business or sustainable enterprise development, that in itself has profit in it, because sustainability has three arms: economic, which is the profit, social, and then ecological. So limiting it to only profitability is not the right approach. It means people can do anything to get money. We can do anything as a business to make profit, but that should not be. So that is the idea. Okay, so let's continue quickly and then conclude.
So please, and my second question.
Yes, go ahead.
EPA, I think we have EPA and Environmental Department Office. I just want to know which of them is key to project management, because at times when there's a project here, environmental officer may come and say, no, this should not be here. And EPA too may come and say, this is this. So I just want to see or know which of this is key to project management as a whole.
Okay, I don't know that environmental department you mentioned. I don't know where it's located, but I know much about EPA. I've worked with them over the years. What do they do, environmental department?
Sir, please, environmental department, they are in various assemblies.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those people are, I think they are supposed to be working with the EPA, or probably the EPA's, I don't know whether it's the EPA's office in the various assemblies, MMDAs. But what is important is that whatever the case is, EPA has the constitutional mandate to ensure that we do sustainable business that is in line with sustainability practices. And so we made to this question also, EPA will ask them how they work with the sustainable or sustainability, how do you call it, environmental department in the various assemblies. Okay, so let's conclude this quickly. So the life cycle assessment by the circular flow, we know that about the circular flow. The idea is that you start from the top right, from the raw material extraction down to manufacturing, distribution, the use and disposal. We must do it in such a way that there's no waste along the value chain, or we minimize waste to the barest minimum, or the waste that we generate can go back into the system to feed into the system. That is why paper-based paper-based caps, for example, can serve as manure. When I prepare my smoothies, I don't drop the watermelon peels or the pineapple peels into the landfill waste. I send it to my garden. So how do we ensure that we are not throwing things that can be recycled? So this is a typical life cycle assessment for a building. The first stage for a building is the extraction. Why are we talking about extraction for building? The sand, the stones, the chains, the cement, they are all extracted to manufacturing the building itself, transporting those things that will move to the building site. Then you construct the building. So, or you make the building. Then operation, how people will use it. There may be a need for refurbishment at the point. And then maybe finally we demolish or we recycle. So sometimes, even when they are demolishing buildings, sometimes they harvest the how do you call it? The blocks, if they are strong. Otherwise, then that demolition or demolished building, they can pick a few things in it and then use it for filling of a new place. So what we do, we have to look at how we can reduce that which we are throwing away. That is basically the idea. So one other thing we can look at is what we call the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, which is an independent international organization that helps businesses and organizations to take responsibility for their impact. So whatever you do, take responsibility for that you are making on the environment. And so the Global Reporting Initiative helps everybody to be on the alert. So, but this is not that if you are doing it, then it will help you. So those who were asking about, for example, how do we track it? You can use the Global Reporting Initiative's work. What's the name? My name is Samuel. Okay, so sorry, yeah, I had to pause it because there was a noise at the background. So we can do this. You can check on this online, the Global Reporting Initiative. You can have a few things there for yourself. Then finally, for today, there's a little background about the Global Reporting Initiative history, starting in 1997. Now. I think it's just a few countries. It is in many countries. You can see we have oil and gas sector launch. You have mining. We have so many institutions or kind of businesses. So I'll encourage all of you to read more about GRI, and then yeah, I'll be giving some assignment later on GRI, maybe in the course of the week. But if you pray and I forget, then it means that you have to do it later in the semester. But it is one of the things I want you to do, self-reading and self-learning, how GRI can help us to become more sustainable in our project management activities. And, you know, GRI's scope reach to thousands of reporters around the world. So if you need them, you can also contact them and they can help you to understand how you impact the environment and how you can actually take responsibility for it. Some of the GRI initiatives resulted in what we call carbon footprint identification and also how to do carbon offsetting. So some people grow trees and then some so it helps us to make better economic, environmental, and social decisions and take benefits, which will benefit everybody. So to conclude today's discussions, what we try to say so far is that we need to implement inputs by in a more sustainable way. Environmental performance is very important. It's no longer an option, but part of our sustainable development agenda. AI and big data can give us information about sustainable and non-sustainable practices and can help us to design ways that will make us become sustainable. And the concept of circular economy is very key, where we are thinking about not encouraging waste, but we are thinking about making sure waste is converted into either an upcycled product, a recycled product, or reuse in such a way that we don't contaminate the environment. And climate change, adaptation, and resilience are becoming critical. and we have to think about it. The little thing we do, let us begin to ask ourselves, what is the impact of this on the environment? The last time you throw the sachet water on the street, know that it's going to choke the gutter and then it's going to flood somewhere and somebody is going to die. And that is how we begin to think about the circular economy. Well, the future, for you as future project managers, you need to be grounded in both traditional project management skills and environmental sustainability practices so that you can be able to work together and sustain and maintain the environment. And that ends it. Thank you. If there are any outstanding questions or concerns or contributions, we can take them and then we call it a day.